Howdy, I'm Aaron, and I'm here today to educate for the knowledge of many things that happen in the home in an urban setting. So I'm going to touch on a lot of things like I'm going to do some plumbing repairs, I'm going to do some electrical repairs, I'm going to teach you just basic stuff, carpentry, drywall patches, anything that might come up that could turn into a costly repair. As the channel grows, I'm going to get into more, exciting things to create an environment where we're in our homes day to day, but most of the time we're relying on the outside world. As we try to channel our inner spirit and our ability to create for ourselves, things don't happen on their own. So that's what I would like to do with everybody here is, just be a beacon. Today I'm in the comfort of my own home, and I'm coming to you wearing a specific hat today. I'm going to be wearing a plumber hat. So what does that mean? I'm going to teach you how the professionals would tackle quite a costly repair. You come home one day, you're getting ready to make a meal, and your kitchen sink is clogged. It is by far one of the most common things that we see in the service industry. Coming to a home and the drain is just so clogged with organic material, grease, maybe there's some bad bends, that kind of thing. So I'm going to do a step-by-step process here today, which is going to show you basically how I would tackle it. And I do have a perfect kitchen sink here. However, it's not clogged. But I'm going to show you how I would tackle it. And I'm just going to basically be servicing my drain here in my own kitchen sink to show you some of the techniques that a professional would use to tackle this everyday occurrence that happens in an urban setting. Okay, so I do have the luxury of having access to the tools required, but most of these tools can be rented. Okay, a really bad kitchen sink, doing the steps that I'm going to show you here today, it's going to cost you anywhere between $700 and $1,000. So this is a pretty costly repair. If you're going to tackle it on your own with a little bit of knowledge, you should be able to take this on, and your rentals might cost you $100 and your parts might cost you $40 or something like that. But so we're looking at maybe like a top end here for a DIY, a couple $100. That's a far cry from $700 or $1,000. Mind you, professionals are, they're coming into your home, they're taking the time to really inspect how things are, and they're going to try to leave you with a properly functioning kitchen sink drain. Professionals also incur costs for, the wheels turning, advertising, insurance in case something goes wrong. So there are costs built into those fees, but at the end of the day, sometimes you might just say, hey, you know what, I saw that video and I'm going to take it on today. So here we go. Okay, so here we are in the home here today. We've got a clogged kitchen sink. As you can see, we're not draining here very good. People are throwing food down the drain, and we don't have a garbage disposal here. So I'm going to take a quick look at all the tools we're going to need here today. So we got a bucket. Basically, this bucket is to help us clean up later, pack our tools. We're going to need a good flashlight. In this case, we're going to be reclaiming some fittings. So we're going to need an 1.5 inch hub saver. We're going to need a saucepan or a drain pan to allow us to catch any overflow that might happen. We're going to need a small piece of 1.5 inch pipe, some rubber gloves, a set of good work gloves, some water pump pliers, some ABS glue, a tape measure, a knife, some pipe cutters for plastic pipe. We're going to need a 1.5 inch wide with a fitting clean out, some odds and sods 45s and fitting 45s, and then a new union nut P-trap. These tools here are going to be available for rent, but these are professional grade drain cleaning tools. We've got the K400 here by Rigid, and we've got the JM1000 here. This is basically a pressure washer, a hydrojet for plumbing pipes. We're going to take a closer look here at the job at hand. I'm gonna take a look underneath the kitchen sink and see what kind of setup we've got. Okay, so we've got a indirect waste here, trap adapters, new basket strainers, all this stuff looks good. However, you can see here that they've glued this P-trap right on here. This has room to go up, okay, so I'm going to teach you about what that is. And then they've got a long sweep 45. And when I take my tape measure out in here, I don't have the room to get on there. So I want to be able to get a clean out in there because the pipe is clogged downstream here. So we want to add a Y and a clean out in this section here. So what does that mean? I'm going to need to cut off this P-trap. I'm going to have to reclaim that hub there. This pipe goes up, okay? And then I'm just going to refit swing a new P-trap in there with a Y clean out, and that will help us to be able to properly service this drain. Okay, so just a little note here about, sanitation. This can be a little bit of a messy job when the drain is quite clogged. So we're going to put down a drop cloth here to protect the property. And we're going to make sure we got rags on hand and a bucket there just in case, we have a little bit of a spill. Okay, so here we are. We're ready to get started to repair this drain and do the professional drain cleaning service here on the kitchen sink. You can see I got my light in here. I've got a drop cloth prepared here. I've got some of my tools that are ready to go. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to drain the P-trap. You're going to take your water pump pliers and you're going to adjust them to the size of the union nut on the P-trap. I'm using my little saucepan here to catch the water. And that one was just hand tight. Good little Gorilla rubber gloves here. Okay, so that water's pretty much drained. Loosen off these Marvell nuts here on your indirect waste, and then that whole assembly comes out of there. Then you're going to want to take this out. You're going to want to take this out to the garden hose out back and just hose it down. You can see that there's quite a bit of debris built up in that P-trap, but it's still got lots of room for flow. The other thing you can't see here is that this trap arm here is a little bit loose. It's got adjustment here, so we can go up on it. So here's our fitting that we want to add in there, okay? So what this does, this is a Y fitting, and you're going to want to have it in the direction of the flow. This is going to be the clean out here. So this is a plug that's called a clean out, and it's removable. So you have access to the pipe. You can get your drain gear in there later. Especially if you have a problematic kitchen sink drain, always a good idea to have a clean out right at the top, okay? That's going to allow you to get your cables in and your hydrojet equipment in there. So now I need to do some measurements. I'm going to do some cuts to rebuild this drain and get it assembled. Once it's assembled, I'll proceed with the clean out process. First things first, I'm just going to glue this clean out in here. So you're going to use yellow ABS glue, okay? Any regular ABS glue is going to do just fine. Take out your snips, and you're going to cut right at the pipe there, and that's where that clean out's going to go. As you can see, my drain's not too bad, but there is some grease buildup there. Definitely time for a service before it ends up causing a problem. So this piece here is going to be garbage. I'm not going to be able to reuse this P-trap. We're going to be replacing the P-trap. That fitting is basically toast. So now I'm going to install that clean out, and I'm going to put it on the vertical, not necessarily on the vertical, but more like a 45 just above the horizontal. Okay, so now I'm going to do a process here where I'm going to reclaim this hub. And the tool that you're going to want to look for It's called a hub saver. So this is an 1.5 inch hub saver, and it's going to save me the cost of having to replace all this piping here. Okay, this one is already fit up. It's good to go. I can just cut that old P-trap off there and drill that out, and I'll have a new hub. So I'll see if I can do this where you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the shears are just going to go right on the center line there. Okay, and I'm just going to cut. Okay, you can see the job that did there. Basically cleaned it out, got that old piece of pipe out of there, and ready for a new piece of pipe. So we're going to reinstall this indirect waste, and we're going to fit up the new P-trap.
What I like to do is just use a tape measure. Because I'm just going to presume this cabinet's level. I measure here, we got 14.5 to center. On this end, I want to be right around 14. Give it about a half inch of grade there. So that's where we want that one to live. And now we know that this strap arm here, or this indirect waste, has got some grade on it. It's not quite 2 feet, but half an inch over 18 inches. That's more than 2%, so should be working good. Tighten up these more rail nuts so that that's secure.
And now we're going to install our new P-trap here. So as you can see, this swivels. And you can either put it in or off that bottom of that santee or whatever, back this way, however it works. But I'm going to use probably one regular 45 just to hit that angle on the inlet of that new Y. Here's a regular 45, okay? First thing to do is to measure your drop piece. So as we had a close piece before, it's probably going to be a close piece. Yeah.
So a close piece, 1.5 inches, is going to be 1.5 inches, okay? So this is how you measure it, like a pro, okay? You take your tape measure out, mark that pipe with your thumb, take out your snips, don't cut your finger off, get that lined up. Now you got your close piece, okay? So there's your close piece. Nice, no burrs, that's why I like the snips.
So I'm just going to fit that in there. No glue for now. Install my P-trap on there. So if I put that P-trap on there straight, I can basically get away with just using 145 in there. And now that I've got it, I'm going to take my tape measure, measure those 2 pieces that I need by holding it and measuring the 2 pieces, gluing it up, and then we can start the drain cleaning.
So I need 2 pieces. One's going to be 2 inches. Mark that. There's one. And then the next one will be 2 3/4. Mark that.
And let's glue it up. I like to put a rag down, because there will be a little bit of glue that'll spill or drop and drip or whatever. So first things first, we can just put the 2-inch piece into the 45 and prefab that. Now we can put our 2 3/4 into the back side of the P-trap. When you're gluing this piece up, you want to make sure you don't have so much glue on there that it runs down inside here. So I like to take my rag, put it in there, clean that out, make sure that I don't have any excess glue in there, put my rag back. Next thing is going to be to glue up your P-trap. Now that that's done, I can just finish it off by gluing in the rest of the trap arm. And then connect connecting the V-trap. Glue up that union nut. Okay, we're gonna give that a few minutes for the glue to set up. This yellow ABS glue, it probably only takes literally about 10 seconds, but I like to give it 4 or 5 minutes just to make sure. So this here's a K400 made by Rigid. Definitely a powerful machine. It doesn't have an auto feed. I like to use this one for kitchen sink drains. Just makes life a little bit easier, not being bound up. Okay, so cautions, word of safety here. Obviously the cable can bind up. You're gonna just wanna watch your fingers. So as for now, you can see I'm wearing rubber gloves. I'm gonna put on some heavy duty work gloves here. These ones are like triple XL so that, you know, they're comfortable to wear with the rubber gloves on, because obviously you don't want to get that schmutz. If that schmutz is bleeding through your gloves or whatever, it's going to get on your hands, and you know, this is good sanitation to be wearing rubber gloves. I like to just put them inside the work gloves. You can see who fabs these here. These ones are really good. So this guy here has a pressure control switch for your drum. We are going to plug this bad boy in. Usually near the kitchen sink you've got lots of power, so I'm going to just plug into the top side of the oven here. You don't want to set your switch forward. Give it a test. And we've got action there. So you're going to want to make sure that you have an assortment of heads. The one that I like for the kitchen sinks, typically what you're doing on a real clogged kitchen sink here is you're trying to just punch a mouse hole so that you can get in there and get your hydrojetter in here. But this one here's got like an articulating head on it. This one's really good for getting around the sanitary tees that they like to put on the vertical stacks, because when it gets to the end there, it wants to drop and then it'll follow in, right? So we're going to install this dongle here, and we're going to run in and show you basically a brief idea of how to operate this equipment. This can get a little bit tricky based on how your kitchen sink is set up, but the on-off switch can be used and operated by the knee. So now that I've got that in there, I push until I get to that. Oh, I know that sanitary tee's in there, and I'm just going to massage it back and forth. There, it went in. So that was pretty straightforward and easy. So now I'm just going to keep feeding the cable. And I know I'm there, so now that cable's in there, I'm going to turn on the hot water. And I'm going to watch for water to back up to this clean out. Basically what's happening in there now is that cable just slapping around inside the pipe, and it's loosening any of that debris up, and the hot water is helping to flush it out a little bit. So this is the essential part, is to create that mouse hole in the muck so that you've established flow. Once you've established flow, you can start hydrojetting and really blast that pipe out. So I'm pretty satisfied here after a couple of minutes of running hot water that we're not going to back up. There's a good enough mouse hole in the pipeline. And I'm going to just retrieve my cable. And the nice thing about with the hot water too is that you're basically cleaning your cable as it goes. So a good idea to just kind of retrieve a little bit at a time. So that cable's nice and clean. Hot water's flushing. And we're going to put this machine away. And now we're going to set up for the hydrojets. And that's basically going to be a permanent solution for any kitchen sink drains. We're going to flush all that muck out of there and going to go down into the 3 and 4 inch pipe out to the main sewer. Okay, so we've got our hydrojet set up here. A couple of things to watch out for here. Obviously, I've only got about 12 to 14 feet of pipe I got to clean, so typically this cable, you got to spin it. It's basically just a high pressure hose. We're going to have a water supply here, important, only connected to cold water lines, okay? And then obviously you just need to connect your power, and you insert that hose into your clean out, and we are basically going to just do this process here.
I've got this water line here. It's connected to a cold water source here, basically the cold line from the kitchen sink tap. I've basically got a pressure tester here with that valve on, this valve off. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push all the air out of the system, turn the water on. Sounds like most of the air is out of there, so I'm going to just give it a couple of shots. Really make sure it's got no air in it. Hey, we're a bit loud here, so I'm used to this. I'm probably partially deaf as it is. Maybe some worse than ear protection here, but at the end of the day, we are going to just try to uncoil this as it goes in. So I'm going to turn it on, and here we go.
Okay, I can tell that is now in the main, in the 3-inch vertical stack, because it's just offset here about 12, 14 feet from where I'm at. I've got at least half of this 50-foot hose in here. I've got about half of it in there. So you can feel it as you're hitting fittings and whatnot. You try to rotate the hose a little bit, and it finds its way and it meanders down the fittings. So now that I know I'm in, I'm going to start with the washing process. The first pass is basically, there's a forward nozzle and there's 3 backwards nozzles. So what's happening is you're just punching through that sludge with the forward nozzle. Everything's backing up a little bit behind it because there is back pressure from the high pressure hose. But now that I'm down at the very end where the kitchen sink ties into the stack, I'm going to pull back slowly. I'm also going to run hot water in behind it. Now this is really going to scour all that grease and all that crud that's built up in that pipe, and it'll be another 25 years before somebody ever needs to work on this drain again. So I'm going to start that process now. Try to come back about a foot at a time. So we're getting a little bit of backup action there. That's because there's hot water going in behind it, and we're getting a lot of back pressure. So I'm probably about 6 feet away from the stack, so a lot of that water is not able to drain away. So you're basically just watching at that clean out for when it starts to back up. When it does start to back up, you just shut the water off, okay? And now we're going to flush again some more. Done. So I was basically 2 feet on that trap arm there, and that's why we were getting a little bit of water coming back at us. So now we just have to clean up, and we're going to do some testing to follow up. Okay, so after the cleanup, we got all the tools put away, washed up, hosed down, and scrubbed down with some antibacterial or antiseptic wipes, just for the next guy that's got to use it, or just for your own well-being, just kind of keep things cleaned up. Right now we're going to do what we call the testing phase, and in the industry we do what's called a flood level rim test. That's where we've done some drain service down below, we've worked on the drain. Now we want to make sure that these drains are not leaking, for starters, and that they're flowing intentionally. So we like to fill both basins up with nice hot water, and I'm just going to take this moment to talk a little bit about some maintenance, some preventative maintenance that you can do. Dawn dish detergent is really good. It's just well known. It cuts the grease. It helps enable good flow. Sometimes people have luck actually cleaning their drains just by using Dawn dish detergent, the soap. That being said, our basin is almost full. So, you know, after you do a load of dishes, if you especially had some greasy cookware, you know, you try to wipe that cookware out with paper towel or whatever, and then that can go in the compost. But you're always going to have a little bit of grease building up in your kitchen sink. So now we've got these basins filled up with nice hot water there. At least once a month, maybe every couple of months, you're going to want to do this plan here. Fill it up with hot water, and you're going to take some Dawn dish detergent, and you're just going to pour it right into the crumb cup here while the water's hot, so it doesn't suds up. That's going to be your first. You can just pour it in there like that. And you're going to give it about 30 seconds to chill. Okay, recommend wearing rubber gloves to do this part here, but I mean, I've been doing this so long, I got no nerve endings in my hands anymore. The welding and between the welding and the hot water and the whatever, I mean, I can just do it so quick I don't even feel it. So I mean, probably not the best for you if you've got sensitive skin, or you know, if you have nerve damage or anything like that. Just be careful. Wear some rubber gloves, it'll take the edge off. But I like to use basically straight hot water, and depending on how hot your water heater's set, this is just going to help with the scouring action here. And what we're going to be looking for here is, I'm going to pull you in a little bit more. You see how that soap is basically at the bottom of the crumb cup there? So I'm going to pull the plugs here, and we're going to watch this sucker drain, and then we're going to go down below and we're going to look for leaks. So now essentially that soap is basically the first fluid down the drain, and it's being chased by hot water here. Everything looks like it's draining real good. We're going to see a little bit of a swirling action there. And that kitchen sink is totally clear. So we'll go down below here and see what we can see. If there's anything dripping, we're going to make some final connections and then call that a day. Everything looks really good. So we're going to call that a job complete. I hope this helped you with your in-home urban sovereignty and getting closer to being released from the matrix, as it were. I'm Aaron, and it was a pleasure to be here with you today. I am the Urban Sovereign.